Getting a little bit deeper into an SOP, or standards, procedures, and guidelines, provide equal and consistent approach to regular tasks such as user email setup and account creation. Standards allow us to set certain regulations and kind of, like I said, make that consistent approach. Procedures get into a more detailed account of how tasks should be completed, such as new server patching or particular application installation. And of course, guidelines are just suggestions or if additional clarification to a certain task is needed. For example, standing on an electromagnetic dispersion mat is usually a good idea when you're replacing server parts, things of that nature. Cisco has a good line to protect the network, and there's a lot of open source equivalents to this as well, but of course this is a Cisco based exam, so we're going to take a look at these. One of them is the ScanSafe web security appliance, and they use that to filter web content and probable bad sites and links in the cloud. So it provides that nice consistent access to the cloud. ASA Firewalls is your one-stop shop for filtering VPNs and even an additional IPS or intrusion prevention system if installed. Even integrated into our ISR, or integrated services routers, are firewall feature sets along with packet filtering, VPN configuration, and IPS functionality, along with many other security features. Iron port email and web security appliances actually control and encrypt email. They filter out spam, and they do a limited amount of web control as well. IPS can be implemented as a blade server in certain devices or as a standalone device. We'll be dedicating an entire module to the iOS IPS that can actually be installed and run inside of our integrated services routers. And finally, don't forget the CSM, or Cisco Security Manager. This is a standalone software piece that can manage the full range of Cisco security products. IPv6 is coming down the pipe, and I sigh every time I see it, just like a lot of administrators out there are doing. But if you haven't heard, we've actually run out of addressable IP space in the IPv4 world. So IPv6 has been developed to replace that. For the process of this exam, and as you saw in the CCNA as well, you just got to wrap your mind around some of the fundamentals. Remember, this is a hexadecimal 128-bit address, and it's still split into the network and host parts. Some of the nice things is it works quite well and has some functionality built into it, like DHCP and IPsec. It does support IPv4 to IPv6 NAT or tunneling, which we're commonly starting to see a lot more of out there. We're getting smaller networks are actually doing the IPv4 to IPv6 NAT, which basically equivalates an IPv4 address to an IPv6 one. I've also been seeing tunneling out there where they'll have an IPv6 network that they're tunneling through to another IPv6 network through IPv4 networks. Additionally, they're updating the routing protocols, so you'll see things like OSPF version 3 that can handle those IPv6 networks. And make sure you really familiarize yourself with the IPv6 addressing structure and the types like link local and the various multicast implementations. IPv6 security. Just remember that many of the threats that plague the IPv4 world are also going to affect our IPv6 world, such as spoofed packets, man-in-the-middle attacks, and traffic sniffing. Additionally, some new considerations need to be taken into account. NDP, or Network Discovery Protocol, is going to be one of those automatic things that's going to kind of help out with the IPv6, automatically figuring out where it is in the world and how it connects. And there's definitely going to be some security vulnerabilities with that. Of course, just like before, you're going to have your header. They actually use header extensions, which again can be manipulated and used maliciously. Remember, like we said, DHCP and that NDP version 6 auto configuration functionality. Anytime you have that kind of out there, there's going to be vulnerabilities. And there's also, you're going to see problems with running that dual stack, or an IPv4 to IPv6 NAT, and that tunneling considerations associated with that. So next we're going to get into our lab. We're going to take a look at some of the vulnerabilities of Telnet versus SSH and show you some best practices. Next, I'd really like to drive home what security brings to us. I want to show you the difference between a Telnet session and an SSH session from kind of a hacker's perspective of possibly somebody snooping the traffic in between the two, and or an administrator and possibly a network device. So this is a real simple tool. It's called Wireshark. It's a great network management or troubleshooting tool. I use it quite a bit in the field, but it really gets into to analyzing packets, and you're able to basically select an interface and watch all of the packets. And in a hub environment or something along that nature, you can really get into you can see all the traffic, of course, passing over that interface. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and link over to my local LAN connection here, and immediately I start getting traffic. Now next, what I'm going to go ahead and get done is I'm going to establish a Telnet session between this computer and a device, and we can see if we can track or look at that information. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize that Wireshark while it's running and fire up a good old putty session. And I'm currently telnetted into my device. So I'm going to go ahead and log in and do maybe a show IP interface brief. Maybe do a show run. Basically, I'm just kind of generating some traffic. Again, Telnet clear text, so I can see all my interfaces. I can see everything. Pretty good. Alright, now I can go ahead, now that I've got some traffic generated, I can go ahead and take a look at my Wireshark. I'm going to kind of jump up here and find some Telnet traffic that I've got. And all I have to do is right click and follow this TCP stream. And how about that? I've got a complete view of everything I've been typing. So you can see my username, my password. You'll notice that show IP interface brief, and then the result of that. So Telnet is it's pretty scary if somebody were to be able to manipulate themselves into the path of your traffic. You can see how some sort of scanning or man-in-the-middle type attack or network sniffing attack could really be detrimental to your network. Because right here, he just got not only the entire configuration, but he's now has an usually administrator level username and password. Very, very scary. So I can go ahead and clear out that expression and just continue catching data here. Now I'm going to go ahead and try the reverse of that, or what we suggest you use. Go ahead and exit out of here. We're going to go ahead and use the secure method of SSH to do that. So let me go ahead and putty and SSH. .254, and let's log in again and do a show run. Yeah, just you hear a lot of times, you hear all these best practices and you hear these suggestions, and you never really get to see the result of what happens if I do Telnet. I mean, really, is it that bad? How much more secure can SSH make me on the network? So I like using this as an easy, quick little demonstration to really kind of demonstrate that. So we've got some SSH traffic going, and let me stop here and go back up. And I'll find one of the SSH and complete pretty much the same process of just following that stream. And get a completely different scenario here. As you can see, basically he'll know that I'm SSHing to Cisco and that I'm using PuTTY, but everything else is encrypted. So I'm sure if they had the time and the military grade de-encryption computers, they could probably break that. But other than that, I mean, for your normal user, this is a very, very good level of security right here. So basically, you just wanted to demonstrate, like I said, the difference between Telnet and SSH, and demonstrate the effectiveness of just following some simple guidelines and what they do for you in your network. Alright, in this section we covered all those security basics. Common security goals. Don't forget confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Remember to address the cost of security. As you've seen, cost drives companies. So just be flexible with that piece. Of course, classes of attacks, Cisco security products. We've talked about classifying data and securing the IPv6 world. Remember, this is going to lead into our building a security policy, so really get familiar with a lot of these. And this is a big part to take in and try to explain a lot of these concepts to companies you may be securing.